Hi, my name is Dan Burns, and I was fortunate to be an airborne ambassador for astronomy aboard the NASA 747 known as Sofia. Sofia stands for Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy. It has a 2.5 meter infrared telescope on board, and I'm going to describe my experience down at the NASA Armstrong Center in Palmdale, where I got to fly on 2 Sofia missions. Stay tuned for that with some interesting video and pictures from my missions and all the other things we did that week. Also, we performed some experiments on board. So these are physics experiments that would be appropriate for a high school physics student or just anybody curious about physics. And those you can access at any time just by clicking on the eye up here. And the different experiments are, we brought a helium balloon on board, see what would happen on takeoff and landing. We brought a Geiger counter to see what would happen to the radiation count as we climbed into the stratosphere. We also did an experiment with a pendulum, trying to see what would happen to the period. And we did an experiment in the cockpit during a turn. And we also did an experiment to try and measure the tilt of the floor of Sofia as we were flying level. And so stay tuned to hear about my experience, or watch the experiments, or do them all. This is a picture of David Marasco, Kevin McCarran, and myself in front of the forecast instrument, which is attached to the Sofia infrared 2.5 meter telescope inside the Sofia 747. This is just one of the experiences we had in the week that I was down in Palmdale as part of the Airborne Ambassador for Astronomy program. And I'm just going to tell you about my experience. There's a lot of great information on Sofia and how it works and what it does. And I recommend you look that up and do some research yourself. I'm just going to be talking about some of the highlights of my week down in Palmdale. And so this is our rental car that Dana Backman is driving, and I added some Photoshop elements to it because one of the first experiences we had was to go see Sofia come in from a landing. It was on a test flight, and so you don't always get a chance to see it land in the daytime, so this was a unique experience. But our information was a little off, and we ended up rushing to the site to see the landing, and we made it like to within seconds. You'll see a video of that shortly. And this is a picture of Sofia coming in for a landing. After it landed, we drove back to the hangar and got to walk around through it, and then out onto the runway and saw Sofia there after the landing and got to walk around on board for the first time and take some pictures with it. And so here's our video of the landing. You can just see Sofia right here. And it's a little windy out there, so I've turned the volume down. And I'll probably end up saying a lot of the same things I'm saying as I recorded this. And so we're parked next to a road. And it looks like it's coming right at us, so Dana Backman knew exactly where to park. So there's David, Kevin, and Dana and the highway. You can tell the gear is down. So they were testing a Autoland system and had flown up to Northern California and then came back. They didn't fly a mission this night. So I am taking still pictures and video at the same time. Not an easy thing to do, so it's a little shaky. And then we'll see right on up to the landing. Of course, now I'm looking across the road, and so we'll be interrupted by cars. Would have been definitely too dangerous, as you can see, to cross the road at this point. So Sofia's a 747 SP a smaller version. There are some larger versions of it, but still very large, graceful, beautiful plane. See a Joshua tree there. We're in the Antelope Valley in Palmdale, which seemed like the desert to me anyway. So here we are. Sofia's just landed, and they are servicing the airplane. It's going to fly again the next day, and we'll be on it. You can see where the telescope door is stored when it's open there, that bulging section. And here's some pictures. Here we are in the Sofia hangar. We never saw Sofia in the hangar. It was being used often enough, so they left it out on the tarmac. Later that day, we attended the mission briefing, where the pilots and the mission director and the flight team were all there and went through and made sure everything was okay for that night's mission. And then we took off, flew out over LA. You can see this is out the window and into the sunset. This is, we're not quite at our maximum altitude yet, but you might be able to detect a little bit of curvature to the horizon there. It's pretty straight, but if you put a straight edge across, a little curvature, but a really awesome coloring to the sunset. This is a video taken with my GoPro attached to my jacket, so it's a little shaky. We're walking down the hallway in the Sofia hangar building, and these are pictures documenting the history of Sofia. Later that week, we got to walk down the hall, and Dana Backman, there's Dana, the astronomer with the Sofia program, gave us his personal history as we looked at all the images on the wall. That's one of the astronomers that was observing for this mission. She actually flew with us. Astronomers usually don't fly on the mission. They can if they want, but they usually don't have to. And so you just walk out this huge door, big enough for a 747 to fit through. They used to assemble B-1 bombers in that hangar. And they also, that was the sound stage for the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. A little bit of trivia there. And so you can tell it's in the evening, our long shadows there. So Sofia typically takes off a little bit before sunset and lands around sunrise to take advantage of the night. The infrared telescope only works well at night, just like a visible telescope. All the background infrared signature of the sky would interfere. So we got to go up these stairs, which is kind of cool. You're always seeing the president come down from Air Force One, which is a 747, down a similar set of stairs, so no jetway. And it's way up there too. It's not a height you'd want to jump from. And there's the kitchen. That's the front of the airplane. You can see some seats where you could catch a nap in. And this is the back where all the action is going on. There's the kitchen again. And there's little tables you can work at. And different computer consoles. That's the telescope operator console. We'll get another view of that. It won't go as fast. And you can see the telescope there in the back, or at least the bulkhead where the telescope's on the other side. And we're about ready to do our safety briefing before the mission. And that's Nick there, who also was helping us out along with Dana. This was our flight path. The blue is what they planned on doing. They did have to alter things a little bit at the end, shown by the green as a result of the air traffic control telling them they wanted them to come in a little differently, but we mainly just flew around in circles in the Pacific doing observations. So each one of these legs, they would be observing a certain object, and then they would switch to a different one, and so on. And that was all planned out very carefully, and then they would have to make deviations based on the environmental factors and things like air traffic control. So it's very interesting watching them adjust and make decisions on the fly. Here's me at the Educator Console. So we had our own computers so we could monitor what the telescope was doing and what the plane was doing. And we wore headsets that let us listen in on anybody on the plane, the telescope operators, the science operators, the mission director, and the flight crew, as well as each other. And this is the science console. A lot of these displays are the visual cameras that help them locate their object and make sure they have it on the detector. And then this right here shows what they're usually getting, and this is a spectra. It's telling them the intensity of light versus wavelength or frequency. And so that's usually what they're observing rather than getting a visual image. This is just a picture looking back towards where the telescope is, telescope operator, science team, and mission director here. You can see Kevin there watching the science team. I also brought my own infrared camera on board and took some pictures with it. So here's an infrared picture of an infrared telescope. The brighter the color, the warmer it is. So this dark stuff is cold. And so this is the bulkhead separating us from the stratosphere. And so this is exposed to, the other side of this is exposed to the stratosphere, so it's very cold. You can see more of that here. This little cold spot is actually, there's a liquid helium cryostat cooling the detector, and this is a vent for that. So this is liquid helium that's boiling off during the mission. This is just some random video of sights and sounds of the mission. This is an early attempt at our balloon experiment, which you might want to take a look at anytime you want. You can click on the little eye in the corner of this video and access our experiment videos. Here's the cockpit. We could go up there as long as we ask first. And there's the science team, telescope operators working in tandem to make sure they get the most out of their observation time. There's Kevin watching them, what they're doing. There's the mission director. And so it's pretty cool to be able to just walk up to any window you wanted and look out. David is up there with the science team talking to them. They were very generous with their time and would answer our questions and ask us questions too. This is one of the better views we got. We're looking west as we fly north, and these are the Cascade Mountains. And so it's exactly which one we're looking at. I think that's Rainier, Hood. That might have been St. Helens. I'm pretty sure that's Jefferson. So you can get a map and check me on that. I know I got a picture of Rainier later. I'll show you. So now David's up with the science team, and you can sort of hear what they're saying. If you're going to fly with Sofia, I recommend coming up with a way you can capture the audio in the headsets onto your videos. I just tried putting the headset around my camcorder, which sort of worked, but you can't really tell what they're saying. And so they are looking at the input from one of the cameras as they're locking onto a target. And here's again the mission director's console. And here we are up in the cockpit. So I went up there for a turn experiment. So again, you can watch some of our experiment videos. Just click on the little eye. Should be up here somewhere. And there are 5 experiment videos you can watch. And one of them, the pilot helped us do up in the cockpit to see what would happen to a pendulum when we turned. This is the navigator, and you can see what he's dealing with. I can't imagine knowing what each of these things does, but he does, and then some. Like I said, we land around sunrise, and so this is after landing the first time. You turn around, and there was the sun on the opposite side of Sofia, so I took this silhouette picture as we're walking back from it. We also got a tour of the hangar itself. This is where they re-illuminize, they recoat the mirror of Sofia. And so every few years they have to recoat it, and so they put it in this vessel, which is pretty much a vacuum chamber, and they heat up some aluminum and coat it almost atom by atom, so they get a very, very smooth layer to make the observations more accurate. This is another instrument. We had the forecast instrument, which is a spectrometer, infrared spectrometer, and this is XES, which is also an infrared spectrometer, but is used in a different part of the infrared wavelength. Other things around the Sofia hangar, this is the Lockheed Skunk Works. If you can look, there's a little picture of a skunk here, and it says Lockheed Martin. This is where they built the SR-71 and the stealth fighter, the F-117, and a lot of other things, and who knows what they're working on now, but we did not get inside that building. We did get to see Sofia takeoff as well, and so this is a picture of it on the runway before the takeoff. You'll see a video of that in a little bit. So for our second mission, one of the main targets was Ceres, which is the largest asteroid. NASA has a mission called the Dawn mission that's orbiting Ceres now, and so Sofia wanted to take observations as well and then compare them, and it helps the observations if they can have sort of a comparison between two instruments. This is the meteorologist giving us the weather briefing at the mission briefing. This shows our flight path in blue, and you can see some really severe weather that he was worried about. Sofia flies high enough to be above most weather, but these storms can inject moisture up into the stratosphere, and that's the whole reason Sofia flies in the stratosphere, is to be above the infrared blocking water vapor. And so that was a concern, as well as some turbulence, and it makes it hard to hold the telescope steady. So we'll end up making some deviations to this path to get around the weather, as you'll see. And here we are ready for our second mission. Now we know what's going on. David and I got to fly in the cockpit during takeoff, and so this is us getting ready for that. You'll see a video of that in a little bit. And so this shows our planned flight, the blue, and you can see we deviated from that. We turned sooner to get around this bad weather here and did this kind of little loop here, and they swapped some of the observations from one leg to another, but even with all these changes, they were able to get all the observations that they needed. This is an 8x speed video of the telescope, and you can see its motion, but that's really not the telescope. The telescope usually is pointed very rock steady. You might see it slew to a new target, but what you're seeing is the plane's motion around the telescope. And so there's a bearing and a system that keeps the telescope pointing in the same direction as the plane has those slight motions around it. Pretty amazing. And here's our experience taking off in the cockpit. So I am sitting behind the pilot, and David is sitting behind me. He also got to sit in one of the landings, as did Kevin. And so that's one of the cooler things you'll get to do if you're a airborne ambassador, is either do takeoff and landing in the 747 cockpit. 747, the takeoff, it goes very smooth. Not as much acceleration as some of the smaller planes, and it's using up a lot of the runway. And you can see they're going almost right into the sunset. Makes it hard to see, but they know what they're doing. These are NASA pilots. They fly fighter planes and all kinds of things. So this is just well, the pilot called this his night job, where his day job was flying the fighter planes. And so we're up now, and so he'll bank so we're not going right into the sun. And so this is near the LA airport, and so there's a lot of air traffic in the area, and so they are controlled by the same people that control LAX, and so they have to make sure they get a clear path out of here. And that's one thing you don't realize when you're looking out your window in an airplane is how many other airplanes are around you. But when you have this wraparound view in front of you and a radar showing you where the airplanes are, you see that they're kind of flying through some traffic, as we'll see here. And so the navigator kind of helps them spot things. They'll see on the radar, they'll make sure they get a visual of it, make sure we're a safe distance away. So it helps to have another pair of eyes to do that. So you can see we're still pretty low as we climb out. They used an iPad to help them see if they were on the correct flight path. There you can see a plane flying alongside of us. Those weren't the most concerning. The ones that were coming at us were the ones you really wanted to see. There's one that was sort of coming at us right there. But we didn't come anywhere near them. Another cool thing in this shot, this is the Earth's shadow. And so it's the Earth's shadow being cast onto the haze in the atmosphere. Here we have a picture taken from a still picture I took while we were also taking off. Here's we're up higher now above the clouds. Sun is starting to set. And this is the science team and David sitting in the middle there. And this is a picture, one of the better pictures I took out the window. This is Mount Rainier, and you can see the Columbia River and a city here. And this is almost at our maximum altitude there. This is just a quick video of takeoff. I didn't get my act together and took some stills, and that's all I got. But if you're in the Palmdale area, you see these flags. That's a good place to watch Sofia take off from, and you can find out from their website when they're going to take off. And this is a GoPro that I set up to take a picture every minute or so. And so it shows all the activity over a couple of hours. You can see the motion of the telescope. You can see there's a lot of interaction moving around as they try and solve problems as they come up and make sure they're getting all the observations and doing it as well as they can. And so that was really one of the highlights to me, to watch these professionals solving problems collaboratively to get this important work done. And finally here, this is a picture of the science console when they were observing Ceres. All the asteroids are numbered in order of discovery, and you can see Ceres is number 1, the first one discovered. And these are the cameras, the visual cameras that help them find the object, and then they are taking spectra of Ceres that will help them figure out the composition. Here we are at the conference table with Dana. He's teaching us some astronomy, and that was really ongoing all week long, spending time with Dana, just constantly absorbing his many decades of experience in infrared astronomy. That was definitely one of the highlights, especially when we weren't flying on Sofia. But here we are early in the morning, working hard. At least they were. I was just filming it. And then when we landed, like I said, it's sunrise, And so instead of taking the picture towards Sofia, this is away with its shadow being cast on its hangar, which I thought was pretty cool. And so here's me at the top of the ramp. This is the German flag. Germany is a partner with Sofia. They have about a 20% share in it, and that helps us do these sorts of things, international effort. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my talking about my experience, and if you want to watch some of the other videos, again, just click on the little eye up here and you'll see a list of 5 experiment videos. Check them out. I think you'll like them.